welcome everyone to our latest edition of our vlog, where we're meeting local Hampshire sporting legends, and I'm joined by Matt Stagg, who's serving as Director of Rugby for Winchester Rugby Football Club. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Kris.
Good. So maybe if I can kick off with yourself and a little bit how you got into rugby. How did that journey start?
Yeah, so I was born and brought up in Kenya, and my dad was a keen sportsman of all sports, to be honest with you, but the rugby scene attracted a greater sort of family pull than many of the other sports that he was involved in. So there was always, at every game, kids, mums, other children playing together around the pitches. And this was back in the days when all the players used to go and get in a big bath at the end, and it was the children's responsibilities to shepherd the ever-flowing pints of alcohol to the side of the bathtub for 30 muddy men to drink together. So it was always an extremely friendly sort of environment, very family orientated, but obviously in today's world, a very different experience for children and sports people. And I think from then it kind of became part of my life, my sister's life. And I then went on to school, a big part of my school time. And I kind of drifted away, I suppose, a little bit in my after sort of A levels, found other things in life like ladies and alcohol, and had a bit more fun doing other stuff. But the pull back to it was sort of much later on. I had a short stint in my late 20s, but really moving to Winchester and joining Winchester Rugby Club about 8 years ago in my mid 30s, sort of rekindled my rugby career. So yeah, always been about family, good times, fun, as well as, hard sport.
Good stuff. Excellent to hear. Can you tell us a little bit more around Winchester Rugby Club, the setup, the teams that are offered there, and what Winchester Rugby Club's all about?
Yeah, sure. So the club's a fantastic located club in Winchester. For those who do or don't know, it's got great facilities, 3 main pitches as well as extension pitches out the back, 2 more extension pitches. From a setup perspective, it's got 3 senior male teams, a first, a second, and then a team called the Knights, which is kind of like a social third team and vets team. We've also got a female senior team, as well as a Winchester girls team, which is the sort of emerging team to feed the ladies team. And we've also got an academy in that kind of feeding into the growth part of the senior team. And then below that, we've got a huge minis and juniors section. So over 50% of the club membership actually comes from the minis and juniors. And it's a huge bustling, everything from the age of 5 upwards, each year containing roughly about 70 children, run fantastically by the other members of the directorate. So obviously I head up the senior directory rugby, and then I've got Christine who works very closely with me and runs the minis and juniors, and she runs that session, which is every Sunday, huge for families, huge for grassroots rugby. And hopefully the vision for us obviously is that flows up into our academy, which then flows up beautifully into our seniors teams. But I think the biggest growth I think we've seen has been in the minis and juniors, and a huge growth in girls and ladies rugby, specifically in the last probably 5 years in the ladies side, which has been great to have that as part of our emerging club.
Great stuff. And what are the biggest accolades for Winchester Rugby Club, or any particular Winchester player that you can think of that's really gone on to great things?
It's quite a few actually. So we've got some stalwarts in our clubhouse, some old warriors like Mark Vickers, who's never made it to any international stadium, but has played at the club since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, has captained many teams, was the previous director of rugby before myself, and is known throughout Hampshire and the southeast, really, at any kind of rugby club. Has got various rearranged components to his face from many years of being a hooker and playing at varying levels of rugby. Rolf Strafford, who again has been president at the rugby club for many years as well. He was also a first team captain, but he played at England internationals at a young age, as well as played a number of positions in sevens for a range of different clubs, actually, not just Winchester, but a range of different clubs in his younger years. And then moving sort of a bit closer to home, we then have Fieldsy, or Andrew Fields as he's known, who started off at Winchester, was a phenomenal player, played for England students as well as the under-20s, and did a phenomenal career in rugby until unfortunately received some pretty life-changing injuries in his early 20s. But that didn't stop him from staying close to rugby. And I think that's a really important message about Winchester is, someone like Andy, who now uses a wheelchair to help him get about, and it hasn't affected his ability to engage in the sport, to engage in the community. For a long period of time, he was our first team coach and successfully led that squad forward. He took a break from rugby for a bit of time, came back, returned as the Knights coach for a period, and has now stepped up to being the second team coach, working closely with our first team coach, Gareth, to progress the sort of senior squads. But I think probably the most famous Winchester Rugby Club player is Joe Marchant, who's made it through to the starting centre position and pretty much made it his own now for Harlequins, and has got numerous emerging caps for England. And obviously we're all backing him to hopefully get a strong position. He's still very young in his career, in his mid-20s, and hopefully he's got a future career, going on with England as well. And then I think finally, just off the back of Joe Marchant, Mike Marchant is his father, who also plays a key coaching role at our club, leading with the ladies teams, but also providing sort of coaching support to any other individuals who want to sort of grow their skill set, specifically in the minis and juniors, where he's helping parents help coach going forward. So those are some of the key sort of local heroes, as well as sort of main screen heroes. One more actually to add, Scotland international Budge Poutney, if anyone can drag their mind that far back. He was a Winchester Rugby Club player as well, and obviously played for Scotland, a lesser known team to England.
Very good. Well, it's great to hear about a club that's got such a strong junior section, a great bit of history, people staying at the club for a long time, also producing, top flight pedigree of players as well, going on to earning representative honours. It sounds like a fabulous establishment. And for yourself, you mentioned a few of those players having a few injuries, a few reconstructions and different things. What about yourself? Have you ever faced any injuries, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I've had quite a few injuries. So I've broken my nose twice. No physio required for that, funnily enough. But I did have full reconstructive surgery, taking sections from my cheek to rebuild my nose, which, I think I still look beautiful. So I did a pretty good job there. But no, the ones that I've had most of my physio work on has been my ankles. So I've broken my right ankle twice. I've torn ligaments in it twice. And every single occasion, I've had to have some form of, support to get back to rugby. And in the early days, when I first damaged my ankle, I don't think I took any physiotherapy really. It wasn't a break. It was a heavy ligament damage. And I think I just tried to just look after myself and get on with it myself. And when I reflect back on my speed of recovery, but not just that, my performance on return to playing in my sort of early 20s, probably about my mid-20s when it first happened, it was nowhere near as successful as my more recent damages, where I've been a lot more conscious of the importance of effective rehabilitation. So probably when I first broke it, and I had to take a long time to recover, and I also had to have some ligaments reattached in that break as well. So I had a whole range of physiotherapy options, physically on site, as well as physiotherapy that I did at home, every evening while watching TV with elastic bands and all the rest of it. But it enabled me to return to rugby. And I think that the other thing I would say as well from my experience is it's more than just the physiotherapy that's part of it as well. When you take quite a big damage to a part of your body and you're looking to return back to fully grown, scary, hairy rugby, there's a bit of a mental component to returning as well, especially around the damaged part of your body. Feeling the confidence to be able to get back in with everyone who's not dropped out while you've been away for maybe a whole season. So there's two components to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned returning to rugby there. Obviously, we've all faced a bit of a break in our sporting activities because of the lockdown scenario. What have you missed particularly about not being able to go out there and play rugby during the various lockdowns we've had?
So it's funny because if you'd asked me that, if you'd asked me before COVID and said if the pandemic came about, what would you really miss? I'd probably have said all of the social side, the camaraderie, the relationships, the jokes, the winning together, the losing together, all that side of it. But and I wouldn't have put so much focus on the actual training and physicality. I think this last year and a half has really woken us all up to how sort of stagnant we can become, and also how everything's shortening. I spend so much time sitting. My hamstrings appear to have, I'm turning into like an old, shriveled up man. My hamstrings, my lower back has started to have all sorts of issues. And I think I didn't quite realize how much the weekly training and then touch rugby during the summer was maintaining a whole load of physical welfare for myself. And I think speaking to our team, there's been loads of feedback from people about, yes, we missed the camaraderie and the kind of band of brothers and band of sisters on the ladies' side. But actually, there's been a huge amount of physical, missing that physical challenge, that physical exertion, that use of our bodies. And funnily enough, there's also been an impact on mental health, I'd say, from that as well. There's quite a few of the guys you can quite clearly see are struggling with the lack of ability to get out and run and hit tackles and catch balls and all the things that we would normally do. So I think a big part is obviously the social, but there's a huge amount that I don't think ever really realised, because exercise was always on our doorstep, and it's not as it was before. One thing I would say that was an amazing thing that your physio team put on for us during the first lockdown was the evening yoga sessions and Pilates. That especially for us old boys, but that was phenomenal, and I know everyone got great results out of that, considering the sort of staticness of their daily working life.
Good stuff. We're really pleased to hear that, and hopefully made a difference in some small way. That's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Final couple of questions then Matt, is for anyone who might be watching this, be they young or slightly more senior in their age, what's the best tip in terms of getting involved and making a start and having a go at rugby? What would you advise them?
So I would say go to your local club. Find Google your local club, find your local club, go down there. If you can, take a friend. It's not that rugby's daunting, it isn't at all. But it sometimes might feel a bit easier to turn up somewhere with someone else. Obviously, if you're a young individual, then you'll probably come along with a parent or guardian. But if you're later on in life, come along with a friend. But even then, most clubs now who have a fully fledged minis, junior and senior team will also have a really welcoming culture, because there will be a whole history in that club of welcoming new players, trying to grow new players. It's a huge drive across the whole of the RFU, at grassroots all the way up, to try and introduce more people at all ages and all genders and all walks of life to rugby. Winchester, unlike all clubs, has seen a decline overall in senior players. We're actually doing pretty well with 3 teams, and we may even be able to consider a 4th team if COVID can sod off and give us a bit of time to get back up and running. But what I would say is literally just head on down. Most clubs will have a website, so beforehand, if you're a bit nervous, there's contact details on every single club's website. You should be able to find the director of rugby, or there will be a contact for new joiners. And then what they should do is, normally how we play it, and I'm pretty sure most clubs will do the same, is they'll make the coaches aware that the new individual's coming down, and they'll look out for you, and normally you'll get kind of buddied up with someone who'll get you going in the team. And to be honest with you, it's such a friendly space. Speaking on behalf of most grassroots rugby clubs, you should be able to get what you want out of it. Just give it a go. Just go for it.
Good to hear. Excellent. Final question then. Six Nations starts this weekend. England are on Saturday. What are their chances for the Six Nations?
Yeah, so the WhatsApp chat's been pretty heavy with this. Obviously, being English, I'd obviously clearly support the men in white. But honestly, I do believe that they've got a really strong chance this year. It'll be good to see some of the new younger players get an opportunity to run. We've got some really exciting talent in all clubs, in all the teams. Sorry, I think there's even though everyone is talking very negatively about the Welsh, I think the England-Welsh game will always be a crowd pleaser. There's been many occasions when Wales have been underperforming and still beaten England on that game. The sort of ritualistic, ongoing clash of the Titans, I think, should always make it a good one. Excited, if I'm honest with you, to see how Italy go. Every year they're coming on, further and further, winning more and more of their games and putting more of the conventional, original home nations teams to the sword. So quite excited to see them. France, as always, could go any way. You never know which France is going to turn up. But my bets would be looking for probably a strong England performance and maybe a bit of France, and Scotland might surprise us with some really good stuff as well. So that's my views.
Good stuff. I think if we've learned anything from recent Premiership results, there's definitely an air of unpredictability as teams emerge kind of through the lockdowns. So we'll see what lies ahead. But Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us this evening. That's been really interesting and insightful. Just to wish you and the club all the very best for the future as you bring everyone back onto playing as we emerge from the lockdown, and best wishes for the seasons ahead. Thanks again.
Lovely. Thanks for having me, Kris. Take care.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks.